Yeah, like, that inner voice again, just saying, like, "Who do you think you are to be able to do this?" You know, like, "You're gonna fail. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're too old." Just all those, thoughts, and I think that's normal that other people think that kinda stuff too. Sometimes I think I'm kinda crazy, but
Who who tells you that, Snurf? In your head, is there a quality to that voice? Or is there someone's voice that comes to you when you hear those messages like maybe you're not good enough or why can you do this?
oh, man. It's, like, I feel like it's my own voice.
It's it's kind of scary when that's your voice. That's the communication that you have with yourself now. And I'm a believer in the idea that that inner critic, that individual who tries to stop you from succeeding, who tells you you're going to fail, I don't think we're born with that. It's developed somewhere along the way, right? Usually that internal voice that you develop that tells you you
Mhm.
can't do things, it comes from someone else teaching you that message.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, Jay's right. I don't, you absolutely are not the only one. I think, like, a majority for sure of people that I work with have this inner critic who tries to hold them back from things. And when you start to dig deeper, you often find people in their lives that almost shaped that voice or convinced that voice that, yeah, this is what I'm going to tell her in the future because this is what other people think of me, or this is a message that I'm going to instill in her. Like, and I'm wondering, I know it's kind of a heavy question to think about the people in your lives causing you to be critical of yourself, but are there certain people that come to mind that could have provoked that voice to be so negative or to be so pessimistic?
So growing up, like, my mom has been married and divorced twice,
Mm,
and, both times she was married to alcoholics. So there
okay.
was a lot of, like, fighting and kinda chaos, growing up, and I feel like sometimes it wasn't even things that I heard directed at me, but just, like, overhearing them yelling at each other. There was a lot of, negativity. Um, yeah, so there was a lot of that. A couple of ex-boyfriends too, that
Mm,
weren't necessarily the best relationships or healthiest relationships, but there was, just during, like, fights and arguments with ex-boyfriends, and a lot of negative stuff was said then. And, yeah, just kinda going back to, like, all the disappointment stuff, when people do say things like that to you, and then you do feel like you're disappointing people, it's like you believe that, right? You're like, "Well, this must be true because this person's saying it to me," and yeah.
yeah. If you don't mind going there, what do these ex-partners say to you?
Oh, man.
And it's okay
Um,
if you don't want to, branch
oh,
into
it's
that
fair.
yet. Let me know. But yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, where these messages are coming from, and if we can start to work together to challenge some of these things or figure out the source. Because sometimes when we find the source of these messages, they're easier to challenge because it's like, well, like crap, I don't really believe that. That came from somebody else, right? So if we can figure out where things
Yeah.
come from, sometimes we can learn to diffuse them in our own heads.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, it's crazy. So I had one ex-boyfriend where it was just constant criticism. Like, "Oh, you're putting on weight," like, anything that was just out of place. Like, if my hair wasn't right one day, or if my clothes were a little, like, disheveled or something one day, there was just constant criticism, like I said, "You're putting on weight. This doesn't look good. That doesn't go with that." So it wasn't even necessarily, like, very specific, like, "You suck," but just criticism of things I was doing, or Yeah, so there was some of that, and then, my last boyfriend, we had some pretty crazy fights, and part of that, like, I was active in my addiction at the time too, so there were times when I would be just kind of out of control drunk, and we would get into fights, right? And there was a lot of really hurtful stuff said on both our parts then, but, sometimes it would start with me and I would say something and he would just be saying it because he was hurt and retaliating, but still, it's got an effect, right? When he's, like, calling me a bitch or can I swear?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No problem. Yeah, and it sounds like when you were talking about the first partner and how they would say, comments about your clothes or your appearance or your weight. I mean, it sounded like you were describing those as like sort of smaller things, but keeping in mind that these things add up. And oftentimes when people constantly make remarks about small things like how we're put together or how we come off, it's indicative of how they think, how capable they think we are, or how like able we are to take care of ourselves or make ourselves look nice. Like it's kind of like the message underlying that is like you're not taking care of yourself or you're not able to look nice or you're not able to monitor your weight. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the message that when all those things add up, even though they may seem like, small annoying things or whatever at the time, the message that they create together builds up into this image of like we're not good enough overall and we're not capable overall of looking good enough.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes total sense. It's crazy because yeah, and then, inside my head, it just feeds off of that, right? Where it comes to like, yeah, I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough. He must be checking out that other girl because, my hair's not cut right or.
Yeah, a lot can be
Yeah.
said in comments about how we look or how we come off, about how people perceive our competence, and that's crappy because when our competence is challenged, we start to lose confidence in ourselves, right?
Yeah.
If other people don't think I can do things, even small things, why should I think I can do a big thing like make a career change or go back to school?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. These are these are powerful things to realize, like where these critical voices are coming from.